In this video, I'm going to tell you all about Takayama in Japan, a really well-preserved, traditional Japanese old town, with all the highlights that you can enjoy. If you want to explore the Japanese Alps and experience the local Japanese inland culture, head to Takayama. Let's pick up my journey on day 2 of my Japan Rail 7-day pass from me leaving this Nakasendo trail. Check the video description for that fantastic day 1 of my JR Pass journey as I leave the megacity of Tokyo to take on one of the best day hikes in Japan and enjoy a fabulous dinner too. Because we know that Japan is all about the food, right? I started off at Magome and took an early morning bus to Nakatsugawa, where I took the train to Nagoya to connect to another train that took me to Takayama. Once you're at Nagoya station, take the JR Hida Limited Express train to Takayama, which should take 140 minutes. Plenty of time to kick back and enjoy the amazing scenery in this part of the country. There's one of these trains every hour. Now for many people, Takayama is a layover or connecting spot to get the bus to the amazing UNESCO Shirakawa-go World Heritage Site, but we'll get to that on day 3. Takayama has a lot to offer, which is why I spent the whole day here. Takayama's superb traditional downtown, grand temples, excellent ryokan, and welcoming people make it an ideal day between Tokyo and Kyoto. So I arrived in Takayama and it was already super hot. It was August, even though it was only mid-morning. I walked up through the town centre to find my accommodation to drop off my bags. The town was already busy with sightseers and tourists, many of them Japanese from other areas of Japan, because this is a well-recognised tourist spot domestically as well as internationally. Although for international tourists, it's a little bit more off the beaten path, so you may find it really interesting because of that. Now, most of Takayama's attractions and accommodation is within easy walking distance in the city centre, but if walking isn't an option for you, the Sarubobo bus is a bus for tourists that runs every 30 minutes between the station and Hida no Sato open air museum. More about that in a minute. The fare is 100 yen or 500 yen for a 1-day pass to access all 4 bus lines. I stayed in an inexpensive small Japanese style room at Oyado Yoshinoya, which I booked online in advance. Now be sure to book weeks in advance if travelling in peak periods like I was to ensure you get a reasonably priced room, or else you'll find that they're hard to get. The best thing about this property was not only the comfortable room at a cheap rate, but also the communal onsen style bath. You use it one at a time rather than sharing simultaneously with other guests.
Oh my god, this is so good. I tried one last night, but it was just scalding. This is just perfect. Perfect.
The owners are super welcoming and friendly too, so I can see why it's the #1 rated Minshuku or guest house in Takayama on TripAdvisor when I made this video. So yes, definitely worth looking into if you're after this kind of experience. However, be warned that there are a lot of stairs in this building, so if navigating a lot of stairs is difficult for you, and that includes getting your bags up and down from your room, then consider other options. Alright, with my bags dropped off, I was free to explore and get some lunch too. Let's take a look around and get some lunch while I tell you about the best things you could do here in Takayama over a day. And yes, a day is all you need here before you move on to your next destination. Japan's inland mountain culture finds its heart in Takayama. The 16th century marked the beginning of the Edo period, where things really started to take off in Japan economically, culturally, and artistically. Now Takayama is tucked away in the mountains, so it's not like the rest of the country. That's why they've still got these old school crafts that you'll see around, like carpentry, sake brewing, lacquerware, pottery, and furniture making. The city's layout revolves around the well-preserved Sanmachi Suji District. This district has 3 streets in the heart of Takayama's Old Town, right next to the Miyagawa River. You'll find traditional houses, shops, restaurants, sake breweries, and cafes lining the streets. Now these 3 streets are super cute and totally Instagrammable. Just ignore the wires and tourists and you'll get a glimpse of old Japan. But if you want pictures without the crowds, you'll have to go pretty early in the morning, but later in the evening is pretty good too. Okay, time for lunch, and there are some more unusual choices for your meal in this traditional mountain culture town. Personally, I chose a pretty famous local ramen shop here because I'm a sucker for ramen. Now, there has been some talk this summer about foreigners being turned away from some places like cafes and restaurants. Now, this may be true in a minority of cases, but it's more likely to be one of a couple of reasons. When you go out for dinner, many places require you to make a reservation before you arrive. And often there are ways to do this online. So when you see people being turned away, or maybe you experience this yourself, it may be because they or you didn't have a reservation. And if you hang out long enough, you'll see Japanese people also being turned away for not having a reservation. Here's another trick to make sure you get a seat to get some delicious food. If you see a queue for your souffle pancake breakfast spot that you've been dying to try, or a ramen shop for lunch, make sure you head to the front of the queue before you line up, because at the head of that line there's most likely a book where you write your name down, and you do that before you take your place in the line. That way, when you get to the front of the line, you'll be all set to take your place for that delicious meal you've been hanging on for. Once you've spent the morning exploring Sanmachi Suji and enjoying a great lunch with local specialities, here are some things to do with the rest of your day. A fun visit is the Takayama Festival Floats Exhibition Hall. Here you can check out the incredible floats used in the Takayama Matsuri, the city's main annual festival that is held in April and October. Next, take a leisurely walk around the nearby grounds of Sakurayama Hachimangu Shrine, the city's main Shinto shrines. Now, once you're done at the shrine, you can either take a leisurely walk along the Higashiyama walkway or go somewhere else, depending upon how you're feeling and how far you want to go. I chose to visit Takayama Jinya. This is just a short walk from Sanmachi Suji and used to be the local government offices during the Tokugawa shogunate. This place is seriously old. It dates back to 1615 and the buildings themselves are from 1816. You can check out the rooms and see how business was done back in the day. Rice was used to pay taxes back in the Tokugawa period, and you'll see the important rice granary here in the compound. Another big attraction you can see here is Hida no Sato, or Hida Minzoku Mira Folk Village. These traditional thatch roof houses were taken from various areas in central Japan and meticulously reconstructed in a collection around 2 kilometers west of Takayama Station. Within a lovely park, you'll find houses scattered around a central pond. Now, many of the houses are accessible for you to enter and appreciate the beams and the construction techniques. It's not too long a walk from the station to Hida no Sato, but if you want transport, it usually costs around 1,100 yen to take a taxi from the station. But alternatively, you could opt for the Sarubobo bus that I mentioned before, departing from the station's entrance. But as I was going to a similar but much larger version of this in Shirakawa-go the very next day, I passed on this opportunity. But if you're not planning to go to Shirakawa-go, which would take a whole day including travel time, then I can see Hida no Sato being well worth a visit. After I'd finished with my wanderings for the day, I walked down to the river in the opposite direction of the main tourist drag and found this little place to enjoy dinner. Unpretentious, inexpensive, and just delicious. I've honestly found it hard to get a poor meal in Japan.
This is really good.
Then I headed back to my guest house to take a bath after a hectic couple of days traveling on the road on my JR pass. Takayama is a small traditional town on a big river surrounded by the beautiful Japanese Alps. You'll find an abundance of nature and culture with a rich history. It's not surprising it's always voted one of Japan's most beautiful cities. It's super special, off the beaten track, and well worth considering on your visit to Japan. Join me in my next video to help plan your visit to Japan however you're traveling. I'll see you there.